This wonderful violinist is named Andrew Choi, and he is exploring Ysaÿe Sonata No. 1. I chose this today because of how beautifully Andrew demonstrates great sound in chords and double stops. He hugs the bridge. His bow is like a magnet to his sounding point, even when he plays more quietly. To get to this point of comfort on stage under pressure, you have to practice a little bit overboard on the bridge. Your ear has to tolerate a little bit more dirt than you probably want, and then you can dial back as you reach towards the concert. I know I would much rather be doing that than starting with an unblended sound, taking no risks, and then at the last minute realizing that I'm not projecting on stage and having to rev up and become all of a sudden more muscular. There's something in my studio we call bread sound. It means that the sound is incredibly blended and full. You can hear almost this finely milled grain coming through, just like bread. And it's also very filling and satisfying. It should feel great when you're playing double stops. Who doesn't like bread, right? A soloist has to have a minimum threshold of sound in double stops. You can't get away with playing these over the fingerboard. They're not gonna blend. They're not gonna have that grain that makes your intonation sparkle. Something that we don't think enough about is balancing the bow equally on both strings so that you're not crushing one string or another. Everybody knows you crush a string, makes it flat. Even if your left hand's in tune, your bow can make it sound out of tune. What I find is that when we practice in the realm of bread sound, those misjudgments become much more obvious. If you're sort of floating around when you practice double stops, you're not going to even notice necessarily if something is off. And then you get to the concert hall and you start playing your heart out and oops, you're not ready for that level of athleticism or power. So all of a sudden you feel uncomfortable, tight, then our intonation starts going out the window. So this idea of sort of over practicing your amount of sound, playing closer to the bridge with double stops from the get-go, from the very beginning, even when you're practicing in the privacy of your own practice room, make sure you are thinking about the hall and how you're going to have to eventually play in a more extroverted manner on stage. I would much rather start with maximum bread sound and relax from there. Andrew does that to such a degree that it holds up on stage under pressure, and he plays with such confidence and balance because he's practiced this only on the bridge, and that's why he looks so relaxed. One of the lesser played of the 6 sonatas, highly recommend teaching it to your students because it's only 2 pages long and it really packs a punch and explores the language that Ysaÿe brings to the violin, but also everything it brings to the table and everything Andrew brings to the table here, the idea of playing great sound in your double stops on stage.